evening. Welcome to another edition of Keene Nosman. I'm Randy Filiault.
And I'm Dave Richards.
And we didn't get flooded away, so we're here.
Yeah, we're here.
And we're going to start right off with what our producer told us to do. Right, Rick? If you're driving, stay out of the water.
Yeah,
don't try it.
Don't go swimming with your car.
I mean, and the point is, too, 6 inches of flooding water is a lot of power to that.
Yep.
So stay out of the water. Anyhow, and as we're taping this, it's raining again. It's like, oh, man, I think I just had Noah go by. But I'll tell you one thing that's not too often. That's Rick Budd. I was going to figure that one out. Yeah, it's a heck of a night, heck of a couple days for, just about anybody that has to do with work in the city. I mean, the fire department, the OEC, they had the command center set up all night, and public works and fire and police and everybody involved. So I was talking to you probably had the same problem, talking to employees that were trying to get home last night when all this was happening, and roads are washing out like right in front of them.
Yeah, it's really something else, just one day, and I heard it was like 7 inches of rain all at once, which that'll do a lot of harm. My father's house, of course, between Roxbury and Church is underwater.
That always seems... Hey,
that's
Rick,
the spot.
I think Rick actually has a photo here of a couple of photos of just what you're talking about down there. You want to bring those up? There we go. There's the infamous Church Street.
Yeah, it sure is.
You recognize that down near Probate? All the time. And I think he has one more up there, too. Hey, I said I think he has one more up there, too. Man, I'm telling you. And there is,
Yeah. And
you see the guy from Channel 9 in front of Rick. Yeah, somehow he fell in the water, right, Rick? Got a little nudge. We can't figure it out, And I did see that big television camera out here that Rick said he found. Yeah. And it looked like a sticker had been removed from the back.
A little hair dryer action.
Yeah, exactly, Attaboy, Rick, keeping the old budget at Cheshire TV down. So anyhow, yeah, it was obviously a busy time for everybody involved in the city. I remember several years ago, I hate to date myself, it's just going back a ways now, when I was on the fire department with Keene when that happened. And it's a long night because you're up all night long.
Yep.
And so anyhow, kudos to everybody involved. If you can tell, Dave and I are both beat today. We just came in talking about who's the most tired. And so if we even normally look bad and we look worse tonight, yeah, that's why. Hey, one thing also I wanted to tell everybody, Dave, is that we are on YouTube now.
Yes.
And we want to pass that word along. So if you miss us here, if you have friends that watch us that miss us occasionally, and you have even your handheld, go right to it.
Yep.
And obviously, probably have to have a boring day, but whatever. Go right to YouTube and catch our show.
Boring day or understanding boss, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Memorial Day parade. Everything went well. All the festivities. Great weather, great turnout too. Wasn't it?
It was really nice. The turnout was nice. I mean, I think it was 2 years ago. It was like 90. It was like 90 degrees and humid. It's brutal wearing a suit.
It was warm, but it was still a good crowd. It wasn't too humid.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad at all. It was a beautiful. You couldn't ask for a better Memorial Day, really.
No. So despite the weather forecast, which said rain all 3 days, it was sunny all 3 days. So
did they say it was supposed to be sunny today? Because
it's a chance of a shower. Like I said, I just saw Noah go by, so I think they might have missed that one by a little bit there. Let's see. Oh yeah, I mean, when I was looking out the window when it was raining at the heaviest, and you hear probably all watch the TV show occasionally, Tornado Alley and all of that. I looked out and those clouds were swirling.
Yeah,
it was, and they had a tornado warning in Keene. I was like, oh man.
The rumor mill is that the one touchdown in Allstead.
No.
I have not confirmed that.
Nope, can't confirm or deny that. So anyhow, be careful where you're driving. Check ahead of time too, because there's some places you can't get there from here, and they're rapidly putting things back together. I was reading actually on my phone what Public Works sent out. And they said that virtually all the streets in Keene are at least open one way again now.
Yep.
So, but if you live up there towards between here and Walpole, check ahead before you get on the roads. Let's see, Dave, what else we got going on? And like I said, we're probably not going to make it the full hour tonight because I have an appointment in a little while. So we'll do the best we can to stretch the show out. Hey, congratulations to my doctor, Dr. Mark Funk, who's more than a doctor. He's now the Roxbury representative on the Monadnock School Board. It's like, man, you think you have rough days at the office now.
Yeah, that's jumping into the fire. That's jumping into the fire.
Congratulations to him for stepping in, because obviously he's one of the busier people in the county. And, and it's a weighted representation, I guess. So Roxbury doesn't get a heck of a lot of clout down at Monadnock. But, Dr. Funk's a smart cookie. I'm sure he's, for all you, 165 residents of Roxbury, I mean, I'm sure he's going to give you really good representation. So kudos to Dr. Funk. But boy, good luck. That's an interesting school board.
Yeah, that's herding cats. That's,
that's a, that's one of those that you really do because you care about your community, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because that's a tough school board. Let's see, just babbling on here. It seems like yesterday we were saying, hey, the Keene Swamp Bats start in 5 or 6 weeks. Next weekend, opening weekend for the Keene Swamp Bats, and I was talking to Kevin Watterson today, and Holly and I are going to be housing another one this year. Oh. We've done it a couple times in the past, so we've got he's from Clemson, he lives in Atlanta. I guess he's going to be the next big pro. So I'm hoping Andre Ethier, get the next one and then send me some baseball cards. We'll have them signed out here in a few years. So anyhow, next weekend, Alumni Field, I believe Friday and Saturday, they've got a home game. So plan your schedules accordingly. It's going to be fun again. And I'm going to throw some stuff over to Dave now since he's got a few things in front of him.
Yeah, a couple city items. Your kitchen store on Main Street, 20 Main Street, will be doing on July 20 to 22nd they're going to put a tent up in front of the building, and they're asking for some parking spots.
Now, that's the same time that Street Fair goes on, too, I believe. So I think they coordinated with that, if I remember. So they're going to kind of have a bigger storefront going on.
Yes.
Smart move.
It is. And actually, that's the next thing is the Street Fair, and yes, right in the middle of it. But the kitchen store will be doing it for 3 days, July 20th, Friday, July 20th, till Sunday, July 22nd. I highly recommend you go. That store is awesome.
Oh yeah, and what a great time to go during the Street Fair. I really think the Street Fair is going to go back to the way it was. I think it's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, you look at downtown Keene, even over the weekend, and it's just always packed now because all the stores are full. I mean, there's so many places to go in downtown Keene right now. So, kudos to all the business owners down there. Downtown Keene is looking phenomenal. Looked a little bit wet the other night, but looks pretty good. It looks pretty good
well,
otherwise.
At least it doesn't flood on Main Street. You got to get down to the end.
Not
of
much,
Main Street.
although they had a good chunk of water down there here this past night. It took a while for of course, when the sewer grates are full, they're full.
Right.
There's no place to go. The water just has to sit there and whistle until there's room to go down. So, outside the pub, I see Mike Blastos had a couple of feet of water around his building.
Oh, I didn't go over that part of town.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, but anyhow,
so
moving on.
Be there for that 3-day event. Center Stage is going to do the street fair July 21st. They're actually they're requesting community. Oh goodness, I can't. I am tired.
Community event status.
Community event status, which we have to kind of break the rules a little to let them do it. Just to let people know how it works.
See, Dave's tired, and he said break the rules, and the city council doesn't break the rules. What they do is they'll suspend the rules.
Suspend the rules.
Yes. And then look at it and make Dave. But I know it's all in the wording.
It is. The requirement is that you have to have had an event for 2 years, and then you can request community event status. Because this was done before.
Right. There was just a break in between.
There's a break. But it wasn't done the last 2 years. So we have to suspend the rules
to modify
to modify it and let them do it.
It's small, but the council has to do that.
Yeah.
You just can't say, okay, you're changing it. It has to be a formal vote to suspend, discuss, then modify the rules.
Yeah, I mean everything's above board, and
absolutely.
It's all you'll see it there on TV if you're watching.
It's all on Cheshire TV.
So be there July 21st, which is a Saturday for the street fair.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's funny because it seems like a ways off. It's in July. But we were just talking about the swamp bass. Like I said, it seems like a week ago, and here it is next week. And boy, time goes by fast.
Friday's June. I mean, we're there.
It's there, absolutely.
This is kind of interesting. I only read the minutes, so I got to find out a little more on this. I remember asking for this grant from the EPA a couple years ago, August 2010. If I remember correctly, it was to create a gas incinerator at the dump, and what it would do is, the company that comes in would get the tipping fees, and then the city would get the electricity that's generated from it. This was just we haven't signed any deals yet. This is just an informational update. We got this grant to determine if there was enough, if we could do enough with either the methane coming out of the ground and the stuff coming in, but they didn't really mention that in the minutes too much. So I'm gonna have to come back on this one. But it's a way to get rid of trash and without shipping it all. I think we go to Rochester now, which is truckloads and truckloads of garbage. If you can turn that into energy and work with a private company to do that, that was my understanding of it.
Well, Keene was ahead of its time back when we voted to turn the methane gas into power. Remember that?
Yep.
And and there was, like anything that's new, there was a lot of opposition to that, saying we'd never recoup our cost.
Well, we have
recouped it very quickly.
Yeah, many times over. So that's
it's amazing how a landfill, after so many years, because if I remember right, by now we thought the methane gas would be used up, and it's still cranking.
No, there's still gas in them our
Still
hills.
chugging along. So, they give you lemons, you make lemonade. In that case, they give you gas, you make power.
That's right. So, that's just a little update. They're still working on the details, and that has to come back to council for approval anyways, and I'm sure that will be a very big display. I'm sure there'll be PowerPoint displays and discussions on committees, for quite a while, because that's a big move. But they were just giving us an update that is moving along, and things are going well. So that's really, I got a couple other little things. Let's hit
It's going
them.
to be one of those little things show tonight.
Well, little
things here, little things there.
but important. On Beaver Street, the neighborhood came in. They asked for some improvements. We recently, and I'm a little miffed on this one because we just repaved Beaver Street, and typically when we do that, we do the water and sewer under the grounds, we do the sidewalks, and they didn't do that. So I don't really understand why they just did an overlay and didn't do the reconstruction. But with that said,
Dave will get to the bottom of it.
I will find out
Report
because
back next week.
We put that in the rules very
That's just so
specifically.
you don't pave it and then tear it up a week later for gas lines.
Right. So and they're saying it's going to last 10 years. They don't have to go into the ground, but they didn't do all the other nice things that you do. There were complaints about the fences over the bridge. It's right by Spring Street, I think. If I'm doing that right, I am tired. But
I know.
So
You're as tired as I am.
Yeah, I am. So what they complained, there were sidewalk issues,
Because we stay
curb
up so
issues.
late working on this show.
We do. It's
Lately.
a myriad really of things. And Public Works came back and said that they are going to address those things. This again was informational. Didn't need a city vote. But they are going to come in. They're going to fix the railings over the bridges. They're going to They're going to upgrade the sidewalks where they can. Interested to see how that comes out. Probably should have done it all in the initial project last year.
But it is what it is.
It is what it is now. I don't know why they didn't. It could be that they had done that recently. But I don't have an answer for that. I am surprised though, because they really should have done it all in one shot.
Yeah, they should have. Switching back and forth here, and that's the type of show it's going to be tonight. Talking about some local businesses. I know Dave was away last week, but we had mentioned that I talked to Dave on the phone about it, and we talked about Antioch wants to move into the Colony Mill.
Yep.
And yes, we reported it here on Cheshire TV on No Spin, and there was denials. Said, Randy, where do you get your information from? Blah 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 blah. Well, read the Sentinel today, and lo and behold, they confirmed our report.
Geez, front page story.
Yep, front page story. You're welcome, Sentinel.
Yep.
Send a check to Cheshire TV. That Antioch does indeed want to move into the Colony Mill. I think it's a very smart move. Once again, I'm just curious as to Elm City Brewery, if they're part of the package, or if. Well,
I'm sure something can be worked out. I mean,
what a great propaganda! Come to our college. We've got Elm City Brewery built right into the building. I'm like, yeah.
I'm sure they'll probably want to phase in if they do that. So, I can't imagine they'd be throwing anybody out of there. I mean, half the place is empty anyways.
Half.
So you can probably work with the vendors as you increase your size.
I mean, Elm City Brewery is the only one that's really entrenched in there. The other one's small retail, can be relocated very easily.
Yeah, and probably want to be. They're probably waiting for something downtown to open.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's true. Everybody.
I hate to say it. It reminds me of the dying mall in Saturday Night Live all those years ago. just one place after another leaving there.
But the good news is, because that is such a nice old building.
And it is.
You hate to see it empty. I know my wife and I went to Elm City Brewery there and, had a meal, I think it was about 2 weeks ago now. And we had to wait a little bit because there's a line, so we just kind of walked through the Colony Mill. It was sad. And it's still in gorgeous shape.
Oh, it is. Personally, I thought it would wind up being the Colony Mill apartments or condos. I mean, it's, really laid out right for that. But, if the college wants to move it, I'd say that's even better.
Absolutely. So we'll follow that, and hopefully that comes to fruition before long. I know they want to take their old campus down there and I guess turn that into housing for the campus. So, yeah, smart move. It's walking distance just on the bike path.
Yep.
What else is going on in business here? PC Connection has got their permits, and they're going to be moving into the old Millworks Masters building, which was built down in front of the Public Works garage on Marlborough Street.
Yep.
And so they've, they bought it a while ago, and that was good because it's a nice building. You hate to see that.
Oh, it's a beautiful building.
And PC Connection, even though they have locations all over the state, they still have their foot in Keene, and they did buy that building, and that's where some of their offices are going to go. So, good for them. Let's see, in smaller news, out at the Hannaford Shopping Plaza, there's a women's clothing store called Maurice's.
Yep.
And they're actually just moving around the corner a little bit, and they're moving into 2 stores that are side by side. So, they're expanding. So good, because we've seen a couple stores go out of business out there.
Yep.
And they're moving in and I guess virtually doubling their size. So that's always good. Maybe they can pick up a couple of those people that have been let go from the other retail places that went out of business. We talked about a couple of weeks ago about the housing down behind Meadow Road, Key Road, down in that area that they're spending all those millions rebuilding them. And Phase 2 is beginning on that, so there's your tax dollars at work. Got nothing to do with that one. Let's see, speaking about downtown, Dave, since this weekend is the beginning of June, Art Walks this weekend downtown.
Okay.
And that's a lot of fun.
It is.
There are some great artists in this area, and you see some of the artwork they do. So anyhow, this weekend, walk around downtown, check the storefronts, check out, the artwork. Hey, and while you're at it, go in and maybe spend a couple dollars at one of these local businesses.
Have a nice lunch. Weather's permitting outside.
Absolutely. If it's raining out, you just stay inside a little longer and eat a little more. Let's see. Oh, a couple interesting things. We got the local burger that opened up downtown Keene.
Yep.
We've given kudos to them because we've heard. I still haven't gone there yet, but heard they got a decent burger. One thing, actually, a woman bumped into my wife the other day when was talking about them. Said they can't go in because they cook with peanut oil. And as somebody, my son was brought up with a peanut allergy. He would never be able to go in there. And nothing against them, that's their call. I mean, the Five Guys burger uses peanut oil too. But why you would do this in this day and age when so many people have peanut and nut allergies that can't even go into the business? Especially when you can use another vegetable oil that's still heavy duty.
Yeah.
That's their call. It's their business. It's their dollar. But I've talked to a few people now that said, "Whoa, really? Peanut oil? They can't." Some allergies are worse than others, but some people can't even go into a building where that many peanuts are available. So, might want to reconsider that one, guys. But they didn't call me, so maybe they won't. What else have I got in my business part of things? Oh yeah, hey Rick. We talked about some of Rick's artwork a couple weeks ago, and he didn't have his website up, and he hemmed and hawed, and he acted like he was shy and everything like that. Well, he ain't shy this week. So if Rick can put up some of his artwork on the screen with his website underneath it.
Well, I can't do them at the same time.
You can't do them both at the same time. Do the artwork first, and then at the end of all the artwork, we're going to put your website in big glowing display. and there we go. And we'll just move along. That looks like a flower. Now that's the one. That's the Coast Guard ship. Now, you had a buyer on one of these, didn't you? Right off. And I think a lot of times you'll find veterans when they find.
Sure.
I'd be apt. Hey, go over and take a picture of a submarine. Maybe I'll buy it from you. As long as they're not on fire.
That's the one your wife wants.
Yep. Holly loves that one. That's the widow on Hampton Beach.
Yep.
And that's a really, really good photo. Actually, we're going to be buying that one from Rick.
More flowers. I like flowers.
Yeah, you see the now you guys. a lot of you people probably remember. You can move on to the next one, Rick. Oh, that's really nice. Portsmouth.
Yes.
Remember, Rick has this show where he's the wild and crazy guy and everything.
Yeah.
He's out taking pictures of flowers now. He is just mellowed like you can't believe. And that's the Portsmouth one again. I recognize that. Huh?
Portland.
That's what I meant. Portland. Excuse me.
The first one was Portsmouth. This one's Portland.
This one's Portland. What? And that one. What was the name of that one?
Portland Headlight.
Headlight. Okay. Went there last year. And that was it for now. Okay, Rick. Now, since you couldn't do both at the same time, there it is. And I'll tell you, he's got a lot of pictures on that site. And when you're sitting at home and you want to look at some good artwork, you go right to there, and you can see the softer side of Rick. You thought he was the wild and crazy guy,
He's mellowing in his old age.
Oh man, I'm telling you, he's going to be so far to the left here before long, he's just going to fall over. He's such a bleeding heart liberal, and he used to be the wild and crazy Rick. Okay, anyhow, moving on. What else have I got to talk about here? What else you got over there, Dave, before I get to other things?
Oh, well, I'm already up to the state stuff, so you got to have police and fire or something going on over
Well, that's
there.
why
don't
we're
you?
only doing about a 40-minute show today, because we have appointments and... Anyhow, talking about fire, the submarine fire that was over in Portsmouth, which that was something, because when I heard it was in the forward compartment, of course, submarines are fairly similar. In the 4 years that I spent on subs, as soon as they said that, I'm like, oh man, that's in the torpedo room. Well, fortunately, the torpedoes were already out, because that could have made for an interesting evening. But a fire that size in a submarine, I mean, virtually just picture taking a big tin can, starting a fire in it, and watching it go. And to the firefighters first of all, to the submarine firefighters, that's something. You're all submariners are trained at firefighting. That's where I get my first firefighter training. But boy, for one like that, we had a couple of minor fires in the sub that I was on, but I mean, it was knock it down. It was something like that. That's phenomenal. I mean, that thing went all night long, and I can imagine a firefighter that's never been on a submarine before. It's like, hey, want to go down there for a while? It's like, no. So kudos to the Portsmouth area firefighters that have never even been on a submarine before. For dropping down into that and fighting a fire, which is basically like fighting fire inside the oven.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's hot. And if you watched any of the footage, you saw a lot of the firefighters standing on the outside just hosing down the hull, because that became a super heated piece of metal.
Yeah.
And so, they're going to have to find out. It's a $900 million submarine. So, somebody might be in trouble.
Somebody's probably going to be in a lot of trouble on this one.
It's like, because you're supposed to have a fire watch right there. And so if something happens, you knock it down immediately.
Well, but you say fire watches. Does that mean in every compartment? I can only imagine in a submarine, could something get going and nobody see it right away?
No, not supposed to.
Not supposed
Not
to.
supposed
Okay.
to.
Well,
Somebody dropped the ball. Whether they turned the back for a second and it went up, but every compartment, I mean, you're there because there's a lot of flammable things on submarines.
yeah.
As we found out. But once again, kudos to everybody involved in that, because that's not a fun fire to put out, trust me. It was in the torpedo and the control and the command center. So, but anyhow, it was. They said insulation and wiring, because remember, it's in there getting renovated. So there's probably flammable things that are in there that aren't like normally right there.
Right.
There's things lying on the floor. Things have been moved around, and so it took off. But since we're talking about fire, let's talk about the Keene Fire Department. They responded to 0 submarine fires last week, but they did respond to 4 fires. One, another cooking fire, where somebody tried to burn the house down, but they prevented them from doing it. And 3 were for unauthorized burns, but that was before the rain came, so there's probably not too many of those today. 56 ambulance calls, 4 of them were for motor vehicle crashes. 1 hazardous materials call for a high level of CO2. 9 service calls for just mundane, routine stuff. And 7 false alarms, but none of them were malicious. So kudos to the boys over on Vernon Street. And of course, this report came out before the flooding yesterday. They had as many calls. They had 77 calls last week. That averages 11 a day. I think they had that many calls yesterday.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And last night, and probably going into today. So we'll get that report here in a couple days, and we'll report on it next week. But that's one of those. What's that song? All night long. Don't quit my day job, right?
Actually, one of my boss's house got struck by lightning yesterday.
Oh, that's not That's not a good thing.
And, apparently, it hit the garage barn side of the
Yep.
house. So it's funny because he texted me. He said the firefighters were there in minutes, and
A lot of them, they were out in the trucks, actually, almost like a police car. They're out around and
Yeah.
about. You know, a lot of times it happens when there's heavy flooding because they're just basically going from call to call to call to call.
I mean, he told me that they were there quick. They're very impressed with the response time and how professional they were. So,
It's good.
We like to hear that.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. Let's see, so that was that for that. And, in the few minutes or so that we have left, because once again, Dave and I admit it's not going to be a full hour
Yep.
tonight, the police calls last week. Didn't have a chance to go over them the previous week as much in detail as I like to, but anyhow. Last week they had 787 calls and incidences to report to. That averages 112 a day. That's a lot of calls
Wow,
to go
that
on.
picked up with the college kids out of town.
But it's interesting, and I saw that, and I actually I went back through it and started reading it. It's kind of interesting because it can go either way. Sometimes you'll have more calls and more traffic stops because you've got more time to do it.
Yep.
But you might get the call, for example, they had one robbery last
Yep.
week. That was at the Price Chopper. Now, you go into the police report and you look at that one robbery, there's no motor vehicle stops during that time.
Right.
So you have one incident, and with the exception of, unless, something else major was going on in Keene, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So it can be skewed a little bit, the number of calls. But, they do average over 100 calls a day no matter what. And once again, speaking about the robbery suspect, and we've talked about this before on the show, they rob a bank. Everybody's been caught that's robbed a bank in Keene.
Yeah.
100%. None of you have ever gotten away with it. Robbery. This is the second robbery at Price Chopper, in about a month, 6 weeks, something like that. You both got caught in a day. Hello.
Master criminals.
Yep, absolutely. It's like, man,
Pick a different career because this one's not working out.
yeah, it's probably going to be called folding laundry in the state
Yeah.
prison.
Making license plates.
Learn it well, because the robbery thing ain't going too good here. So, anyhow, kind of going down the list of what the police did this week, and this goes from the dates of May 17th to May 23rd. This is after college has gotten out, in no particular order. They reported to 24 alarms. Most of them were just unfounded. They got there and. Or it might have been a door was open or an employee tripped an alarm. But there were a couple where there was arrests that people were where they shouldn't be. Let's see. You know what? I'm going to jump right down to this one right here because I have a story behind this. Animal calls, animal complaints. We talk about this, how this ties up the Keene Police Department. Some of these, and I was noticing, I was going through and reading where all they come from. A lot of them are still a barking dog in the backyard because people just don't know how to raise their pets. Some of them now, because I was reading where the locations were and it was talking about stores and restaurants. But then when I researched, it was people calling from in front of that store and restaurant for a dog locked in the car with the windows up. So they're actually calling concerned about your dog, probably the one that was barking the other night in the backyard. It's like, don't leave the dogs in the car now. When it's hot out like this, it heats up to a furnace in no time.
Yep.
So, you know how it is when you go out and you get in your car after it's been sitting there for a few minutes and you jump right in, you're like, wow, it's hot in here. Imagine how the dog feels. And also, I was reading an article over in Manchester where a woman was out walking her small dog, or had her small dog in her front yard, and a woman was out walking her pit bull, and the pit bull actually pulled her right into that other person's front yard, and that pit bull grabbed right a hold of the little dog in the little dog's yard.
Ugh.
Well, neighbors stopped, people get out, and they were just whacking on the back of the pit bull, good for the neighbors, and they called the police. Well, the police didn't show up, but they managed to get the dog out, of the pit bull's mouth. He was cut and everything, but he went to the vet and survived. But the Manchester police, unless it's a human being attacked by a dog, will not respond to animal calls.
Wow.
They have an animal control officer, but so does Keene. But if that officer is tied up, they don't respond to animal
Well,
complaints.
what if he finishes off that dog and goes after the person standing there behind him?
Well, I guess then if they say it's going after a person, then they respond. But it's because, and we all know what the budget cuts are in Keene. We know how shorthanded the Keene Police Department is. But they still respond to these pain in the butt animal complaints.
Yeah. And that's just nuts. You can't control your own dog. That's a real problem
Your dog's
for me.
barking in the backyard. You hear him barking. You can hear him barking. They can hear him barking.
Yeah.
And we keep talking about this. This week I didn't see too many repeat addresses, and it's not my intent to throw anybody under the bus. But I'm going to start looking at these every week and see one of those frequent flyers, and we're going to make you a guest.
Yep.
We're going to let everybody know just how maybe you ought to be doing something else, like maybe folding laundry with that guy at the state prison or something, because you can't take care of your pet. It's ridiculous that you get a pet, you tie him to a tree and leave him there and let him bark all night long.
Right.
Don't have a pet. But anyway, I thought that was interesting that Manchester, they said barking dog, it's not something, or even a dog on a dog attack. We don't respond to that. So it was interesting. Okay. Once again, in no particular order again. There were 9 assaults in the city. One of them, or a couple of them, happened and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, about one of the frequent flyers at 32 Washington Street, which is one of the apartments. An assault call there, and a disturbance call there, a noise call there. Knock it off. Yeah. But I think, this is one of these. I think Keene Housing Authority, if I'm not correct, owns that. So obviously they have a tenant, and I'll double check that. I might be a mistake that Keene Housing Authority, but it is, some subsidized housing. And hey, look, you got a decent apartment. Knock it off. Let's see. They assisted the fire department 4 times last week. They assisted other police departments 2 times. Burglaries 2, and robbery. That was the one at Price Chopper. There was 1, but man, that took up a lot of police power. Check the welfare went up to 8. And on these check the welfares, we comment on these where somebody calls to check on a relative. And it does state if they check the welfare, it'll say change of address, Cheshire Hospital. Yeah. So it usually means you were right calling to check the welfare because they found somebody that was in distress and took them to the hospital. Just various city ordinance violations. I mean, that can be anything. Riding a bike on sidewalk downtown.
Noise complaint.
Could be under noise complaint. It just came in under city noise violations. Ordinance violations. There was 5. Criminal threatening. There was 3. There was no criminal trespasses last week.
Oh, that's good.
And there was 3 criminal mischief calls last week, which usually means vandalism.
Bad behavior of some kind.
Yeah, it was. Disturbances in the city, and those are usually one step up from a noise complaint. Could be a fight, could be a party gone bad. There was 22 of those calls for disturbances. 5 were at either bars or restaurants. 10 were in homes or apartments. So weather starts heating up, people start misbehaving. 2 were on Keene streets. 2 were in our shelters. None at the college. They're closed. 1 at Keene High School, and 2 in the emergency room at Cheshire Hospital. But sometimes they bring the boneheads there and they misbehave.
You're already in the hospital. It's probably time to
chill out.
Chill out a little bit.
Maybe they'll give you a popsicle if you behave next time. There was 8 domestics last week in Keene. That's picked up a little bit. We will watch that through the week, through the summer month. As the summer goes along and the heat picks up, Let's see, drug complaints with arrest, there was only 1. 5 harassment calls. Let's see, I changed that number, that's 8. 8 arrests for intoxicated people strutting around town. And I've noticed a few of these always pick up in the cemeteries. People go there late at night. First of all, they see you, you're going to get pulled over anyhow or stopped because that's a city ordinance violation because the cemeteries are closed at night along with the city parks. So if you're drinking, stay home. Liquor law violations 2, that was minors in possession. Let's see, motor vehicle accidents 15. Motor vehicle stops 95. And those usually happen sometimes on a slower day, sometimes late at night. But nonetheless, 95 of them. Most of them were just given warnings. 10 were given summonses, and those are usually people that have had too many warnings. And 2 were arrested on the spot because you were bad previously.
Was that they were looking for them already?
Yeah, it's like, whoops, you were a bad boy and girl the week before and you didn't pay your fine.
Yep, you're already in trouble, and now you're,
bigger trouble.
Now you're in bigger trouble.
3 calls to keep the peace. I'm sure it's similar to disturbances and noise. 5 911 hang-up calls. And site door checks. I put down 25 plus because I just started to lose count. Depends how busy they are, but like they walk downtown, and they don't put these all in. A lot of times it'll just say, did foot patrol downtown.
Right.
But when they do the foot patrol downtown, they're virtually checking on every door. So that might only come up as one, but they've really checked 25 doors.
Right.
So that's kind of one of those numbers that's a little skewed. Suspicious persons, we joke about this. You call, it's like that person doesn't belong in my yard or whatever. 23 calls for that last week.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. And 3 of them in the cemetery.
Yeah.
You know, these people that are out the cemetery aren't watching our show because they paid attention, they wouldn't be doing that. 14 noise complaints last week. That's going to go up as summer goes on, trust me. 1 was in one of the bars, restaurants. 5 were in the homes, apartments. 6 were on the streets. You know, could have been in somebody having a bad day and arguing on the street. 1 in the shelter, one within the college housing area down there, and 1 in one of the Keene hotels. 21 theft and shoplifting calls, and 2 violation of protective orders. In other words, they had a restraining order on them, and they couldn't stay away. So now you're having time to think about it behind bars.
Yeah, you got plenty of time to think.
So 787 events last week for the Keene Police Department, and obviously it's busy, and summer's here, the weather picks up, summer school comes back from the college, so you get a good contingent of people back in again, so picks back up again. So, and I've said this, people say, what a small town police like in Keene do. Yeah, if you don't know, you don't know, because it is crazily busy for a city of Keene's size. It really is. It's nuts. And I know you're going to be heading out with them shortly once you can get a week unlike this past couple weeks you had, and next week.
Let's hope that happens. But I am traveling a lot these days, so.
Yeah, Dave's making it in like 5 minutes before the show, running out of his car and sprinting inside. And so what do you got for state stuff? Because I know we got a few minutes left, and then we'll be breaking a little bit early tonight, but Rick will fill in.
Well, I really only have one thing, but it's kind of.
You got the same one I got, don't you?
Yep. The wacky leadership in the New Hampshire State House, they never cease to amaze. Representative D.J. Betancourt, the House Majority Leader, resigned his position suddenly over the weekend amid accusations that he had misrepresented his work history on law school documents. Well, the funny thing is, he misrepresented them to another representative who kind of called him out on it. I mean,
and it wasn't Speaker O'Brien. Yeah, we're getting rid of him in November. But there was speaking about that, and I tore this out of the Sentinel. There was a really good editorial. It was written by the Portsmouth Herald, and the Sentinel reprinted it.
Yep.
And if you go to Portsmouth Herald's website, I'm sure you can pull off the editorial. Phenomenal editorial, really tearing apart what's happening at the State House this year. Yep. This whole thing with Betancourt and how everybody lied and everybody said, oh, we didn't know about it, and the Speaker of the House lied. And this editorial calls them out like they should.
Well, it's funny because they say that even they asked the leadership, if you knew about this, would you have done anything? And they all went, I'm gonna walk out of the room.
Is it a Democrat or a Republican?
Yeah, right. And Representative, how do you pronounce that? Guida? Giuda. He's the one who, when I saw the picture of Betancourt in a graduation cap and gown, I got a pit in my stomach. I knew exactly what happened. So he said that he did all these hours of clerking, and he did apparently 1 hour of clerking rather than like 10 weeks of it or something.
Basically what it is, it's just, it never stops week after week after week. Just the corruption and the lying and the deceit. And like I said, this editorial really calls them in. And I just want to read one paragraph. I don't want to overread it because reading can get boring. They lied about why they really cut the cigarette tax and lied about the $10 million the state lost on that. And we've spoken about that here when they first did away with that 10-cent tax.
Right.
That 10-cent tax has now cost the state $10 million.
Yeah.
And they're not even willing to go back on it and admit it was a mistake and put the 10 cents back. $10 million they'd rather eat and dump down to cuts like Keene lost $1 million a year. And that's just one paragraph about what they've done up there. But once again, for those of you that are political junkies, go to the Portsmouth Herald website, go to their editorials and read that one. Really nice job writing that one, talking about the corruption up in Concord.
I mean, it's amazing, really.
It absolutely is.
And this guy was being groomed to be the next leader, and his own people knew everything.
Yep.
And until this I don't want to try to pronounce that. I don't know if you know.
I know.
Give it a shot.
We
So this
destroy
guy
people's names.
Yeah, he said I had enough. He said they were going to let him. They were going to let him go and say personal matters, and
Yep.
he wouldn't do that right, and you know, so they were going to cover that all up that he had lied on his resume. Is what they were going to do. Okay, go away. We won't say anything.
Yep.
And then they come back and he wouldn't, and he didn't do it right. So this guy said, nope, that's it. I'm blowing the whistle on you. This is why he's leaving. And
Well, you know, good for him. At least somebody up there, you know, told the truth. And once again, you know, Dave and I encourage, you know, if you can run for state rep, please do. You know, we need new bodies up there. It doesn't matter. Democrat, Republican, Independent, doesn't matter. Just go up there with a, you know, open mind, you know, be moderate and just listen and don't take sides. Just, you know, vote your conscience.
well, I mean, this is it's a circus up there. You know,
It's a bad circus.
It's if you don't agree with the leader, you know, you're in the office by the boiler in the cellar, and you know, it's just craziness. I mean,
You know, the bad news is it is a circus up there, and the only ones that showed up were the clowns. And anyhow, we know we're cutting off about 15 minutes early today. I have to go back to work. I have business to do tonight. Dave, thank you for showing up the last second. Dave was working to the last second. And one last little kudos to Clark Distributors. I just happened to see this today. They did the beer fest down there at the Cheshire Fairgrounds early in the spring. And they raised $6,000 for Keene youth hockey.
very nice.
You know, so everybody went there, and to Clark Distributors, once again, you know, local company does good.
Yep.
And that's $6,000 that they don't have to go out and raise and ask other people for. So kudos to Clark Distributors and everybody that involved there. That's it. We're cutting short a little bit tonight. We'll be back next week with our full 1 hour show and a couple of guests, or at least one, to talk about things. And have a good weekend.
Thank you
very
watching.
much. Have a good night. Thank you, man.